Well, welcome to this morning's Growth Forum, sponsored by EBC. For all those who don't know me, my name's Sharon Smith. I'm Chief Exec at Herefordshire and Worcestershire Chamber of Commerce. And just a bit of housekeeping first this morning. We are recording this event, so if anybody has a problem with that, obviously feel free to turn your camera off and go on to mute, and even if you don't want your name to be shown on the recording or any picture, please contact Liv in the chat over the next couple of minutes. So other than that, good to see you all again, albeit virtually still, which is possibly not what we want, but it is still good to see you all regardless. I think it's going to be another challenging week and possibly month or few months ahead. So it's great to have this event, which is upbeat, it's positive, it's about overcoming barriers and sustaining that competitive edge that's going to be ever more important for all of us, alongside those basic survival challenges that businesses are all facing at the moment. So with that said, we've got some great speakers today. We'll be hearing from Adam Flynn, Marketing Manager at EBC. Give us a wave, Adam, so everyone knows where you are. And also Daniel Walton, Founder and Managing Director of Allpro. Dan, give us a wave, or you're very branded up today anyway. And Dan's from Allpro, as I said. Thank you both for speaking and sharing with us your stories, information and your inspiration today with us. So thank you to you both. For this session, we're also going to end with some delegate networking in breakout rooms, as we found that speaking in smaller groups can really help to discuss the growth opportunities and overcome some of those barriers that I was talking about. So hopefully we can take this opportunity to share some best practice with each other, and I'm looking forward to that later today. As you probably know, it's time again for our quarterly economic data collection that I'm sure you all know about already, but I do want to mention it. If you really can, please kindly contribute to this. It's a key source of information that goes to the highest level of government and Treasury. It's really important that the voice of Herefordshire and Worcestershire businesses are heard amongst the other businesses nationally. We will post a copy of the link in the chat, and I know Hayley will follow up this event, this forum, with a copy of the survey in her email. So thank you all in anticipation really for that. I think it's never been a more vital time to let government know how our businesses are doing, and I really want to do that as the voice of businesses in Hereford and Worcester, so that would be great. So that's all for me today as an introduction onto today's schedule. I'd like to hand over to Adam Flynn from EBC. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Sharon. Morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Growth Forum. Thank you to the Chamber for putting on another forum that EBC have been sponsoring for a few years now. And also thank you to Daniel from Allpro for agreeing to speak this morning and talk about his company's journey and growth. I think growth at the moment obviously is important during any time, but during a pandemic and a lockdown has brought ever more issues, changes. It's probably changed the world more than in any recent time really, and sort of caused businesses to change what they're doing, think about how they're doing it, changes to workforce, etc. We've got involved recently with the Chamber's employment survey, which hopefully some of you have given us responses to, so we're really interested to see how businesses are changing, how they're planning to change their workforce. And from our point of view, I should have introduced EBC. For those who don't know us, we are a managed IT provider. So we work with SME businesses to help them manage and support and plan their IT. So this year's been incredibly busy and different for us really, because we've had lots of businesses that in all sorts of different sectors. So some that have thrived during the pandemic, some that found it really difficult, some that have changed what they're doing, others that have really used it as an advantage. Others that have used their technology or the plans they've got that have really driven those forward. So we're really looking forward to seeing the results from that survey, to see a wider amongst the wider business community what plans there are for the future, or whether it is just for now surviving the current lockdown and seeing how things look after that. I think, as I said, 2020 has been a year of unprecedented, I know that word's been used a lot, but unprecedented change, and none more so in the technology world. I think a lot of things that were probably going to happen anyway have sped up during the lockdown and the pandemic. So, anything from flexible working, I think that was something that a lot of businesses were looking at anyway. Obviously, this has forced a lot more businesses, and back in March, to do that suddenly change that strategy for agile working. And I can't see it going back now. I know some people were starting to come back in to work in September, but I think with another lockdown, I think those habits will now stick, and people will be expecting to sort of have more agile working and remote working. I think the massive change to things like this, so networking sessions and sales meetings and any sorts of meetings happening on video. The technology was already there. I think that for most people, the tech was there, the broadband was there, but the actual impetus to do that change wasn't necessarily. Whereas this has changed, and whether that will go back, whether people will ever go back to driving halfway around the country or even leaving the country for a meeting when it can be done as easily virtually, will be interesting to see. My feeling would be that will change going forward as well. Online ordering and purchasing, it's been with us for quite some time, but I think it's really ramped up. So those, especially probably in the older generations that were perhaps a bit hesitant of online ordering, have really embraced that, as some of the figures show. People like Amazon, who Jeff Bezos has done very well out of the pandemic with online ordering, supermarkets with online ordering. So again, things that were already there, but have probably changed the face of of our high streets for the future. And again, with online interactions, so people are much more used to. I think the younger generation prefer to do things via online anyway, and apps such as Uber and things like that, and Just Eat and Deliveroo and things like that had already encouraged that. But I think people, from anything from ordering a taxi and ordering food to booking a doctor's appointment or booking other things, is all being done online now, and that's only going to continue. And I think things where courses, and I know someone that did a speed awareness course recently online on Zoom, and they got all the people in the room, and you can't see that changing now going forward. Why go to the expense of everyone having to book a room, book somewhere, people to drive, when you can do that sort of thing online? And I think it's only our social distancing and being separated from others is only going to continue our interaction with machines. So I think the rise of the machines, which sounds like something out of Terminator, but it's probably more akin to doing your shopping at an automated kiosk, is only going to continue. So I think where distancing and social interaction and people on one-on-one, where that can be brought down to a machine, so whether that's an online machine or a machine in person, I think again that's going to continue. So as I said, all these things were likely to happen anyway, but I think it's probably sped up some of it by as much as sort of 5 years in some cases, that has brought this forward. And we were talking about growth, and while obviously it's been a really difficult year for some sectors, for big tech, and emphasize big tech really, that they've done really well out of the pandemic. So those a lot of them that were already doing rather well. So people like Amazon, apparently now is worth around £400 billion in value, and with the second lockdown coming in, that's only likely to increase. People like Microsoft with their Teams application, I think, what's my stat, 75 million online users they had in one day during the peak of the pandemic. Netflix has had a massive growth with people sort of obviously not being able to go out and watching online, and Zoom as well sort of came from nowhere to become, I think it reached 300 million active users in April. So the list goes on of big tech, which is great for them. But I guess the question is, how do normal SME companies, how can they benefit from the pandemic? And probably the first thing would be to survive it, and the second thing would be to then grow from it. So I think in our and this is just in sort of our aspect of what we've been seeing and how we've helped clients. It's the first thing that we tried to do was make their business as normal as possible for them. So to make sure that their remote workers and their clients could carry on interacting with that business in as normal way as possible. So when they've got a workforce that's spread out all over the place, to make sure that didn't become a reason for people to come isolated in silos and not talk to each other. So things like Zoom, things like Teams, things like having a proper telephone system that can link people up. So you're not having to tell customers when they're ringing in, oh, sorry, they're working from home. There shouldn't be a reason of, sorry, they're working from home. If things are linked up properly, obviously people should be as accessible working, whether they're in the office, at home, in a remote location. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing that obviously is important is to make sure you're there and can be seen by your customers. So whether that's them still being able to get to you by telephone. So, you know, a number of businesses I know that we were calling during lockdown, and it might have been that they were fully furloughed, but it was sometimes very difficult to get hold of businesses via their normal lines, whether that was telephone or email. So making sure that you're as visible as possible, and also online as well, to make sure digital marketing's become ever more important during this pandemic. So making sure that your company is well positioned to benefit from digital marketing, anything from being found on search engines to having proper communication strategy and perhaps marketing automation programs in place that you can continue talking to your customers and thrive from that. Making sure that your customers, I was saying earlier about how people want to interact, so making sure that you've got a number of channels available for them. So whether that's, again, the phone, whether that's a live chat, whether that's a video call, whether that's sort of conference meetings, however it is that you need to be able to talk to people, that's really important that you can continue doing that, and probably making sure that you're presenting yourself in your best way. So lots of people that were used to a one-to-one meeting and perhaps had brochures and things like that they could show to people, making sure that you are coming across in as positive a way as you would have done if you were doing a one-to-one meeting. That probably includes the video quality, the phone quality of doing a meeting. There's nothing worse than everyone's been there where you can't connect, or the sound quality is poor, or someone rings your mobile halfway through presenting. Sorry. That threw me off my stride. And things like collaboration tools. So there's loads of them out there, anything from sort of Teams to sort of basic apps for sharing things together. And then, the obvious things of diversifying and innovation. So we've heard lots of stories of different businesses doing this, from restaurants that couldn't serve customers within their restaurant to doing takeaways, to people selling online, to all sorts of things. So it's obviously different in different industries, and some will be able to benefit more, but being able to think, okay, this is where the market is going in the future, and this is where we should be going, and then using that technology alongside that. And lastly, probably to benefit from remote working, so that your remote working practices or your agile working practices, that being, having your workers working in the best place for you and their business, is set going forward. So I think that's something that a lot of people have expressed a lot of workers have expressed a preference for doing, and when we eventually hopefully come out of this period, you know, the best employers will be offering that to employees as a benefit now, because that's what people have come to expect. So yeah, that's sort of it from me in terms of what's changed in tech, how we can benefit from it, and I guess it's just looking forward to the next step, to think of the next thing that we can do to make sure our businesses are positioned in the best possible way when eventually we come out of this. So thank you for listening, and over to Dan.
Thank you, Adam. Let me just share my screen. Right, cool. Right, can you hear me okay? All good? Perfect. Okay, yeah, so thank you for that, Adam. Firstly, yeah, let me just sort the screen out. Yeah, I'm Daniel Walton. I'm founder and managing director of AllPro Limited, and we're a retail business, so we sell things. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about now, and the journey that we've been on, has been about the selling of things. And I know that a lot of people sell services, but as we've written this presentation, kind of looked at this, I kind of looked at it through the view, kind of the eyes of other businesses, you know, in our county, or across our two counties, and sort of thought, could this apply to you guys as well? And I think it does. I think a lot of what we've been able to do, some of it through luck, some of it through chance, some of it through strategy that we put in place, I think does apply to other businesses as well. In terms of what we sell, I think rather lazily, we always tend to say we sell camping and campervan equipment, and that's kind of the easy way to kind of describe what AllPro does. But actually we're a lot more niche than that, and we just sell specific products within that world. So we sell things like tents and campervan awnings, melamine, tableware. It's kind of much more restricted than just saying we sell all kind of camping equipment. We actually got through this year pretty well, in part because that summer period was good for our industry, but mainly because I think we've established ourselves in a particular way, and I'll talk a lot about that as we go through. I think there are two themes, again, as I was doing this presentation, I was thinking about. One, that being prepped for change. I think we've been going now for 9 years, and we've lived through a lot of change. When we first started as a business, we were a B2B business, so our main aim was to sell product into camping shops, and then for those shops to sell it on to users. What we found really quickly was a lot of camping shops were closing down. I mean, some of these multi-generational shops that had been around for decades, and obviously the high street not being what it used to be, companies were changing, companies were disappearing, and there suddenly wasn't kind of room for us in the industry. So we changed to be a B2C business predominantly. We still supply companies like Halfords and Argos, but a lot of what we sell now is through our own website and marketplaces. We've obviously had the onset of Brexit and the changes. We're a big believer in export. You know, we try to export as much products as we possibly can, and that obviously is having an effect on us as well. And then just as we thought that was kind of it for change, we've obviously had COVID come along, which at the beginning of the year, I'm going to talk about this in a little while, we thought was actually going to be a big issue on our supply chain, and then obviously became a big issue on our primary market in the UK. And the second thing that I think kind of plays throughout all of this, and I think was kind of helpful to think about, was the legacy of this year. And as I said, this year has been good for us, but what we didn't want to do was just have a good year in 2020 in terms of sales. We wanted to make sure that the growth that we'd experienced was something we could create a legacy from and continue to grow. So our industry wasn't just waiting for AllPro to come along 9 years ago. Myself and a lot of the other people that have been with AllPro since the beginning, we're all working in the outdoor industry, but we wanted to create something that was different, and our kind of tagline, the thing that we stuck by, is that we wanted to stand out, and that is something that kind of stays within the company, whether it be designing product, whether it be the people that we employ, their kind of attitude generally, the way we do shows and festivals. I think it's quite key that we're not just another bland camping company that's out there. A lot of people just buy products off the shelf in China, whereas, you know, we design it and we go through quite a long process with product. So we also created this AllPro way, which is one of these kind of really kind of boring things, but, you know, we sort of really live by it in the terms of a lot of it looks like the kind of thing you would see in kind of inspirational posters and things, but it kind of makes up our brand ethos. And I think, again, along with Stand Out, it kind of follows through a lot of what we do. And the 3 panels of the All Pro Way are in our reception at All Pro, which obviously nobody can see at the moment because nobody can come and visit us. So we're focused on our brand. Our brand is very, very important to us, on the awareness of our brand and what our brand means to people. So we look constantly at how people are talking about All Pro. It's okay for us to believe that we're doing well and we're great and everybody loves what we do, but we do actually monitor other people's opinions of us. And we're always very bold in what we do and what we try to offer. Communication for us is key. Adam was just talking there about multiple ways in which to communicate with customers, and we do that. We look at not just what we've got in place now, but what is going to come along in the future. So in what ways are people wanting to talk to us? We've got somebody working with us now who's far younger than I am and has introduced All Pro to TikTok, for instance. You know, it's another way of communicating to people that maybe, you know, somebody like myself wouldn't have immediately thought of because I have no idea what it is. Communication is key to gaining trust with customers. So I think being there for people to talk to, particularly when you're online, because if people have any kind of hesitation about buying online, it's generally, you know, who is this company? What if something goes wrong? You know, particularly something like a tent, or, you know, a lot of people this year have gone camping for the first time. How am I going to be able to communicate with them? And is it going to be on my terms, or do I have to kind of chase them around to get an answer to my questions? So we have lots of ways to communicate. We also listen. You can see on these slides, I've popped in some of the pictures of our products. And the good thing about our pictures and the images that we've got is that they're not just all from us. A lot of these come from customers. So obviously we sell products that people enjoy using, you know, so they, and particularly for camper vans, so they use the product, they take the pictures, and they very often send them back to us as well. And we do things like we've run a competition this year for pictures, which have then gone to Calendar, which we're selling at the moment, and making money for Make-A-Wish. So the final one is the team at All Pro work together to design and create unique camping and outdoor products. We work really hard to ensure that products are easy to buy worldwide. So we are, I would say every member of staff here is very, very hard working. We work really hard to make sure everything that we do is unique and, again, stands out. And we want to make sure that our product is very easy to buy. Again, people have that experience with Amazon of just being able to click on a product and buy it, you know, in one click. And we want to get as near to that as possible, you know, give people the information that they need in order to make the decision to buy. And then off the back of that, make it very, very easy for them to just follow through and add that to basket and then purchase. And we monitor that constantly. It really is an ongoing process. And our approach, again, is very much worldwide. We want to mirror what we do in the UK across the world. And our kind of main markets outside of the UK are still really Western Europe, but we are starting to sell now an increasing number of products in Japan, in Australia, and the USA as well. We've been really lucky and really honoured to win some great awards over the years, including last year, which seems like a lifetime ago now, but the runner-up for the British Chamber of Commerce for E-Commerce Business of the Year, which just incredible, really, when you think of all those big businesses that really do know what they're doing out there, that are selling products online and have been doing it for far longer than we have much bigger teams than we have, you know, and we managed to become runner-up for that. So that was incredible. And obviously the great local awards as well that we've won. As well as being an award-winning business, we talk a lot about kind of our increase in turnover and what we've done money-wise, but actually, I think the figure that always stands out to me are the kind of the sales figures over the last 9. We're coming into our 10th year. And when we look at the number of people now that own products that have got our brand on them, you know, All Pro, camper van awnings, All Pro tents, these figures are a little bit out now, so they will have increased. But, you know, we're getting to the point we've sold nearly 100,000 tents. We've sold 40,000 camper van awnings, you know, what is a relatively niche market. It is now a point where I can go to a campsite at long last and actually see our product being used by people, which has taken a long time to get to that point because we're not, you know, by any stretch of the imagination, one of the biggest brands in camping. But you can now see our products out there and being used, which is great. In terms of this year, obviously because of COVID, at the beginning of what happened and the lockdown, we were obviously very nervous about things because when the entire country is told not to leave the house for longer than an hour and you sell products that require people to be somewhere else other than home, you kind of imagine that life is going to be pretty difficult in terms of sales. But we also knew at the end of it, there would definitely be a light at the end of the tunnel. We knew that people would be bursting to get outside. We also knew that actually, if you've got a garden or any kind of land, people were going to be utilising that more and more of a lockdown period. So we changed our marketing approach, which again, I'll come on to quickly in a second. And we've had an incredible year. And Adam said about how many businesses have kind of progressed, you know, kind of 3, 4, 5 years. It's difficult for us to gauge at the moment, but we would say at Allpro, we kind of moved on maybe 2 or 3 years in this year in terms of not just sales, but us as a business and what we've then done within the business to increase capacity for future years. So turnover-wise, this takes us up to the end of last year, so it doesn't include this year. The interesting thing on that chart is really that grey area, which is our export, and we can see that continue to increase. And we now have a specific person that deals with export sales, which again, for a company of our size, you know, this 14 of us at the moment, you know, I think shows a seriousness in terms of looking at export. So yeah, so 2 million last year. I think we're just at 2 million. This year at the moment, in terms of turnover, we're just over 3.2. So it's quite a considerable increase. So yeah, what we did during lockdown, I think like a lot of people, we used lockdown to revitalise parts of the business. So we didn't close down at all. We continued to work. I mean, we changed the way we worked. Some people were working from home, people from the office still. We rebudgeted immediately. But one thing we didn't do, we didn't drop our marketing budget. As an online business, we recognised straight away that more people were going to be at home. I mean, one of the interesting changes we saw, we've seen for many, many years a big increase in the number of people using mobile over using their PC. One of the things we noticed during spring is a lot of people went back to PC because people were sat at home, people were on computers, you know, kind of working from home and maybe having a quick sneak on you know, on our website and Amazon and other shopping websites as well. But we kept our marketing budget the same. And then what we did is we introduced a lot more retargeting. So when you go to a website, sometimes you look at something, say a fridge freezer, and then you go to Facebook and onto you're looking for other things. You go to Worcester News, and you suddenly start seeing the adverts for fridge freezers everywhere. We reinvested a lot more in that type of marketing, so that people were being hounded by our products as they were looking around the internet, so that they would see us over and over again. And obviously, with this in mind, that you know very soon we'd all be out and camping again, people would come back to us. We changed our focus on garden camping during the period, and then we sort of really pushed this light at the end of the tunnel thing. We had some really good strategies around that. And we changed our communication style. I think we were sort of getting to a point of being quite a salesy kind of company, you know, kind of this is available for this price. During COVID, we changed that. We really softened it, and it was very much more about, you know, the great outdoors is still out there, you know, it's kind of waiting for us all. It was kind of very soft kind of approach. And obviously took into account a lot of other things that people were experiencing at the time in terms of obviously, you know, trying to keep people fit and healthy and kind of mindful as well. So the 4 main things we're going to talk about today, and these are all big topics, so I'm only really going to kind of glaze over a lot of them. The first one is planning and budgeting and knowing your goal. The second is marketing. The third is looking at competitors. And the fourth is how we talk within the business. So a lot of this is kind of things we were doing, but I think things that have been helped this year, things that have helped us to grow, and I'm certain things that will help us to continue to grow as well. So planning, knowing your goal, for us, sort of typically, you know, these would be things like turnover figures, our profit, volume numbers, kind of all those little vital things you need to keep in place, but also the little things that lead to those. So understanding where your turnover comes from, understanding what makes that profit better, and monitoring those. So the real basics, have a budget for the year. As I said before, you know, we visited this during COVID, we rebudgeted, but we took down our expected sales during the period, but we increased our sales afterwards and put a plan in place as to how we'd achieve that. Within your budget, set really clear goals. So understand, you know, in our case, where the sales come from. 60% of what we do comes from our website, 15% from Amazon, 15% from eBay, and the rest of it from the rest of our customer base. So we understand where it comes from. We can monitor each of those areas and understand what's working and what's not. Have those tools in place to measure things. and then monitor cash flow. And even as a 9-year-old business, we monitor our cash on a daily basis just to make sure that everything's happening as it should, that there's no potential surprises, and that we understand what we're doing. And obviously, if there's opportunities coming up, we can manage those opportunities as well. So whether it be a marketing opportunity, whether it be, the potential to work with somebody new, we can kind of look at that and see from a cash flow perspective how that's going to work. We know that we're really kind of on the money, literally, with things like that. And we've got 12 different sources of income. I think it works out, including the website being the main one. So we get to monitor all of those as well. In terms of monitoring targets, for us, for the shop, things like Google Analytics, we can monitor visitors, average customer spend, conversion rates, and all of these go into a chart, which we can then monitor as well. And the managers across the business are checking that. So we're really, really on top of that, I would say. And through lockdown, we moved the overall sales to later in the year, but aiming to keep the customer visitors the same. So we wanted the same number of people visiting us, but we didn't expect all of them to convert to sales. But we knew if we did this right, we could deal with that later on in the year. Okay. So just for example, this is just, something that we do internally, just a sort of spot from June. We would have the blue line there is what we expected to take on every day, and then we'd just be monitoring it along the way, and just making sure we were where we expected to be. And we had, we'd obviously communicated this with the bank as well. We had, contingency plans around everything. So we had 3 potential routes that the business was going to go. And a lot of these depended on, support from the government, if that was going to come in, what we could do as a business, what we could change. But we would do all this and communicate with the team as well, so we all knew where we were. Things we pay close attention to are our turnover, our gross profit, but then we've got a ton of KPIs behind all of that. And as an e-commerce business, some of these are really obvious and things that you would kind of expect us to do. But the percentage of conversions on the website, so our target at the moment is 2%. So 2% of everybody who comes to our website should buy something. The average transactional value on orders is £200. We're quite, in terms of product that we sell, we're quite high in terms of the value. So £200 is the average. And then our website bounce rate. So of all the people that are visiting us, how many people are spending time on the website and how many people are vanishing. And then we look finally at the return on investment for all forms of marketing. So, for example, we advertise on Google, we advertise on Facebook. All of these places will give us exact figures in terms of how much we spend and how much we've had in return. And we will generally work, if we get £20 for every pound we spend, then we see that as being absolute value. And that's one of those great things where in the past, and we still do, we do a little bit of magazine advertising with some kind of specialist magazines like VW Bus and Camper and Commercial. But back in the day, you would put loads of money into advertising in magazines. You know kind of 40% of it worked, but you didn't know which 40%. Whereas actually with online marketing, you can be exact in terms of what's working and how it's working and where people are going to. So there's a lot as an e-commerce business for us to monitor, but we understand how all of that kind of then plies into our turnover and our gross profit. So looking at things like average transactional value, this is just from this year as a comparison to the previous year. And you can see, I think the middle figure on that is £200, the middle line, sorry. So you can see that we were over that the entire time of that slight dip in April. But that's the kind of thing, again, that we just monitor. And our overall aim, we have a 5-year plan. Our aim is to increase that to 5% by 2025. And the ultimate aim for All Pros of Business is to be 8% of customers that come to visit us buy something from us. So it's all really dry kind of figures and things and stuff, but by monitoring it allows us just to kind of understand where we are and what we're doing right. So after a crisis, alter your objectives, but know you can still achieve your original goal. We never changed our original goal this year. We kept our turnover targets the same. We just moved them around and kind of changed the way in which we were going to get them, and then just focused on those really key KPIs. We share the KPIs with our team. Our management team work towards them, as I say, every day, and demonstrate how effective the things that they're doing are against those KPIs and make changes. And again, just I mean, kind of an old adage really, but you know, looking after your small goals and your biggest kind of business objectives tend to take care of themselves. I think I've mentioned a lot of this already in terms of our averages and stuff and that, but you can see really how the figures kind of play out. So if we're only converting 1% of people and they were spending £150 on average, you know, our turnover is massively lower than if we're actually hitting our targets. And actually just by moving our targets slightly and achieving them, it's a massive increase on turnover. So when we're looking at our figures year to year, we're looking at what we're looking to achieve. We then work that back in a sense of, well, how many people do we have to visit the website? How much then do we have to spend on marketing to achieve that? And, you know, what do we need to do on the website to ensure those achievements? And we do little things, which I'll come on to marketing next. We do little things to just ensure that people do buy from us. So, for example, if it drops, it might be our price is slightly out on something, or we're not putting something to the forefront, or we're not answering questions that we should be answering. So, in terms of marketing, this is a massive part of All Pro. I mean, as any online business, anybody trying to talk to anybody online, you've really got to market yourself and always be there. As Adam said before, one of the things that we did straight away as a business was change our front page to tell people we were still open, because I think that was one of the biggest questions people had for us at the time when COVID hit. You know, are you still sending things out? Are you still open? You know, and it was a simple question to answer. Yes, we are. You know, shop away. So for marketing, again, this is a massive subject, so I will try and fly through this. Have a plan, make it really adaptable, make it measurable, create events, create social engagement. Customer reviews are absolutely vital. Press releases are really, really important, and understand which products you need to market. And again, a lot of this can kind of come back to the monitoring of the business and making sure that you understand what's selling, for instance, and what's not working. But I'll quickly go through a lot of these. In terms of a plan, this is the really basic kind of cut of one of our plans. And what we do is we measure, for every month, we do this a year in advance, but obviously we change it as we go along depending on what happens. We will kind of run through all the different ways in which we market to people. So that can be kind of online stuff, it can be offline, it can be festivals we attend, it can be events we do with the chamber, for example. And we'll plot all those into this plan. And then we'll put together the themes and then kind of work in advance of it, just to make sure that we understand before it happens what we're going to do and what we need to get out of those events as well. And when it comes to online marketing, this can be, you know, in a typical year, Glastonbury tickets, I think, go on sale in November. So we'll be marketing to people in November based around buying a new festival tent for the following year, because people will be in that mindset. So it's kind of understanding when things happen and then kind of putting together the plan based around that. And also as well for us, we've really started to work on a theory of kind of urgency and scarcity. So if you look at like the gaming world and what Nintendo and Microsoft and Sony do every year, you know, they always sell out of every console that comes out. We kind of preempt this with a lot of new products. So we'll kind of really push a new product and tell people they are limited numbers, to the point of we literally tell people the numbers left and make sure that people buy in advance. And that kind of helps us a little bit with kind of leveling out the curve. But all these things are kind of tied into our marketing plan. Customer feedback is really, so in terms of measuring things, in terms of measuring targets and stuff, obviously customer feedback is really, really important. We work with a company, there is an Israeli company actually called Yotpo, an online review company, who are really good. And we work with those guys. They basically email our customers, get feedback from them, and then that feedback is shared onto our website, and that's done automatically. We're only allowed to influence it under certain kind of parameters. But they also get photographs and imagery from customers as well, and sometimes different types of feedback, so where they've heard about us and stuff like that. So all that goes onto the website, but we utilise it as well. We count the number of customer email addresses we get, and we obviously try to get as many as we can. We monitor the new customers in a month, so that's not just returning customers, but people that come to us for the first time. Obviously our conversion rate. We look at brand awareness as a whole, so we count across our entire following, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and we look at how many people are following us, and obviously we've got an active plan to try and increase that all the time. And then we, as I said before, analyse our return on investment for all of our marketing spend. Sorry. So in terms of reviews, one of the big things for reviews is that we don't just have our own reviews, Yotpo. People are also reviewing this on other websites. And what we found as a business is that when people get an email from a company saying, will you review us? If they've had a bad experience, they won't just review on that one, they'll go to other places as well. And the two sort of key ones are Google itself and Trustpilot. And we don't have any influence over those whatsoever. So they're quite good in a sense that they are very often the bad reviews where people, and sometimes it's not, I'm not saying we don't make mistakes and things aren't wrong sometimes, but sometimes it can just be delivery issues, you know, so DHL have failed to deliver at the time that they said they would, for example, you know, and they've ordered at the last minute, it's been an issue for their holiday. So they'll turn to Trustpilot and Google and kind of leave comments there. But again, we'll utilise that. We'll look at that. We tend to always respond, and we tend to kind of learn from what we can from those reviews. So they are really, really important to us. And you know, we kind of often say that reviews are our friends, and it's good communication and learning for us. So for us as a company, you know, we'd always recommend that people move more of their marketing activity online. Digital marketing has become more important than ever. Keep mobile users in mind. Obviously, some type of imagery and stuff works far better on PC than it does on mobile. Always monitor your return on investment. You should be getting, you know, more bang for your buck, reduced time and money spent on activities with low ROI. You know, don't bother investing in things if it's not working. And be more social. Again, you know, could give a full presentation on social media. It's something that we as a team, you know, are highly invested in, and it's a two-way thing with customers as well. So this is an ideal time to build up that you know, that base of people that are listening to you and talking to you on social media, and consider where your communications go out. So optimize your communication scheduling, viewing habits. So this for us as a business, you know, most people buy from us after 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening. You know, that's the prime time. So, you know, we invest quite a lot in kind of making sure that people are looking at our emails over dinner time at work, between 4 and 5 at work. These are all times that people kind of log off their work emails or stop working, or, you know, they're eating their dinner and they'll start looking at kind of other things, shopping around and things. So a lot of our social media and email will go out at those kind of key times. And then obviously if they've got kids, you know, when the kids go to bed, it's kind of another time that people start to look at this. We use MailChimp, as a lot of people do, for emails. And on MailChimp, you know, there's learning within that about your customer habits, which is really useful, as there is on Facebook as well, to kind of understand when people are looking at things. Cross-sell and upsell in terms of marketing, something to always be really mindful of. And for those of you that know Jack, that works here, it's one of his favourite subjects. Absolutely, I will always go on about trying to sell people more products, obviously increasing that basket as they buy from us. And again, I think if you're in the service industry selling services, it's something that's totally applicable as well. So take every opportunity possible. Help to overcome lower customer buying confidence. So we do things like this with Yotpo, so people's reviews where they said they bought X, you know, and then they bought Y as well, and we kind of put that into the buying process so people understand that other people are doing this. Sort of dictate and lead that customer journey through buying, and then also on emails, create market segments. So when people are getting emails from you, make sure it's relevant to what they bought from you. So we do a thing now whereby if you buy a camper van awning, you'll get emails from us about camper van awning accessories. If you bought a tent, you'll get stuff about specifically around camping and about your tent as well. And remove underperforming cross-sells. So don't keep trying to sell things that people don't want to buy. I think back in the day, this was always kind of, do you want fries with that kind of approach? But it's much slicker now. You know, it can be really kind of defined by what the customer's bought, which I think is important. And as you can see here, I'm sure this is a chart that Jack has given me just to prove how well they work. But this is, as we come into our summer, we can see the blue line there is how many extra products are being added to cart. And then that red line at the bottom is how many have been purchased. So people are adding things to cart. And then the upsells, people are actually buying as well. You can see that increasing. I mean, a lot of people add to cart and then don't buy, as you can see from that. We might get them back further down the line, but the actual purchases increase. So these purchases on the bottom line are purchases we probably wouldn't have had had we not tried to upsell that product. So selling a little bit more to customers. Number three, because competitors, none of us operate in a silo, and obviously knowing your enemy is always going to be useful. Again, I think regardless of what industry you're in or what you're doing, understanding what other people are doing is absolutely key. And it'd be really nice to think that we don't have to care about what other people are doing, but actually it's another way to learn as well as we go along. I think to have a measure in place, where you're able to kind of search on competitors and kind of understand what they're doing. One of our big ones is because we spend a lot of money on Google AdWords. We kind of monitor other people's Google AdWords and what they're doing, and we look at where they're ranking compared to us. We also do with our SEO, so we do a lot of search engine optimization as a business, and we'll look at which other businesses are kind of around us. And it's really interesting. We see ourselves passing certain businesses at certain times, a little bit like kind of a football league, and then we'll see kind of other businesses kind of pass us on different areas, and then we'll kind of go back and look at how they've managed to do that. And again, we can do that through keywords and kind of looking at what they're selling and what their focus is at that time. So we monitor pricing, campaigns, new products, and be aware of how customers see us against competitors. This is something that we do through forums online really well. So going into Facebook, there are, believe it or not, hundreds and hundreds of forums on Facebook of people that enjoy camping. Lots of people that enjoy, have got camper vans, and we'll talk about the camper vans. And within it, there'll be conversations where somebody will say, I'm looking for an awning, I'm looking for a tent. Somebody will say, have you seen All Pro? Somebody will say, I would buy an All Pro because of X, Y, and Z, or I would buy an All Pro because of this, or I've got one. And, or you do talk about Vango or Outwell or any of our competitors. And it's sort of interesting to see what people are saying and what we can learn from that. We always had an issue, really, of being too cheap, I would say, which is kind of a strange issue. People look at our products because we're selling direct and say, I'm not sure about buying an All Pro because it's like 20, 30 pounds cheaper than a Vango, so there must be something wrong with it, and sort of addressing that directly, which we've done through quite a lot of marketing, why are we cheaper? And again, I don't think we would have understood that had we not been into these forums. Think about direct comparisons. We have done that. We have said, you can buy this Vango product, or you can buy ours. This has got these features and ours has got this, and kind of really list out, not to be scared of saying, factually, this is what's going on here. And our competitors will obviously be looking to do different things. Some will work and some won't. And I think it's really useful to see, take advantage of that, pick up on what's working for them, look at what they're trying to do or what hasn't worked. Obviously, you can avoid those pitfalls. The things that have worked, you can pick up on and do that slightly better than they did it, and again, they'll be thinking on different avenues, maybe than you will as well. So I think there's a lot to be taken from them. Being innovative overall, within kind of looking at where you stand against competitors. If you look at some of the companies that have really thrived through bad times in the past, Airbnb, Disney, Electronic Arts, as a gaming company, Microsoft, WhatsApp, were all created amidst a recession. So in that time, there's that chance to be creative and do something slightly different. Look at what competitors are doing, and try and do something really, really different. We've done it this year with launching Loan and Go, which is our rental service on tents. Things like that, which I think not anybody else is doing out there. It's kind of the right time to spend a bit of time and get that right and do it. Develop new customers by launching an innovative new strategy. We opened ourselves up to new customers like Loan and Go, people that maybe aren't big campers, they just want to borrow a tent. Look in forums and look who's talking about you and find out who your ambassadors are. There'll be people out there that will be talking about you and praising you and doing good things for you as a business. Empower them, give them every opportunity to talk about your business. Share what they're saying with other people. We as a business, we go out, we actually find ambassadors, but there will be people out there that will already be talking about us and you and saying good things about you. Okay, and collaborate. So don't just market your own business, supporting others, is a really, really good thing to do. Amplify the message of others. Some of our most engaged content has been, articles written by other people, by journalists, and just be as visible as possible by collaborating with others. You're open to promote your brand to more than just your own audience. You're talking to people that maybe wouldn't know about what you do or even be interested. And for camping, before this year, there was a lot of people that weren't interested in it. But then all of a sudden, when you've got to stay in the UK and, You know, a lot of B&Bs are full and the hotels are full, and the only way to get away for a weekend is to go camping. You simply have to be interested in it. So actually being there when people are going to be interested is a good time, is a good thing to do. And we did things, we collaborated during the crisis with these guys, you know, people that organised British campouts for the NHS. We did big promotions for NHS. So if you're a blue card holder, we gave 25% off everything that we did during the lockdown period. We gave away 65 grand's worth of turnover effectively in discounts to NHS workers during that time. But doing all of this obviously really kind of pushed us forward as a brand, as well as obviously doing a genuinely good thing as well, which, you know, we were pleased to do. And then finally, internal communications. So obviously covered quite a lot there, and I know I've done it really, really quickly, but kind of tied into all of that, we kind of live on an ethos of telling people what we're going to do. So the marketing team will kind of generate ideas, they'll tell everybody else what they're going to do, then we'll do it, and then we'll tell everybody that we've done it. And we do that in marketing as well, so we kind of preempt what we're going to do. We then actively do it, and then obviously we'll make a big thing of the fact that we've done it, and that can come with things like press releases as well. We communicate internally all of our daily KPIs, so things have gone through. We make the departments responsible for what they're meant to do. We give weekly in-depth reports. Wednesday morning, the managers all meet together and talk through everything they're doing and look at opportunities. And on Tuesdays, we have department meetings as well. So again, for bigger organisations, this will just all be an absolute given, I guess. But, you know, these are things that we do to keep everybody absolutely engaged and make sure they all make sense in a wider context. So I know that's a lot, and I've really rushed it. But I just think, in conclusion, being in a time of change is a real opportunity. What we did, which I think worked, and our kind of real learning from it, was keeping our goals the same, but being clear about what they were, and then developing a clear plan with clear goals of what we're aiming to achieve. We kept on track by adjusting small objectives, but with the same overall ambition in mind, and we marketed more and by having a plan and making it really easy to adjust. We put engagement at the top of our marketing plan and utilised press releases. So things like I talked about, the NHS thing that we did all the press releases around that. We did a lot around, obviously, people keeping the sanity and mindfulness, and, you know, the kind of the great things about camping, even if it's just in your garden, whilst you're kind of restricted in what you can do. Knowing who your competitors are and analysing them, I think, is a really key thing. Watch what they do and listen to what they're saying. Use that against them as well when you can. Use internal communication. It is really, really important. Make sure that's tight, that it's clear, and that everybody kind of understands that there is a plan as well. I think, especially through a crisis, that's really important. If, you know, as a management team, if you can kind of convey that to the staff, that we know what we're doing here, even though nobody else does, we kind of think that this is what's going to happen, and these are the possibilities, then I think that helps people really well. And I think through strong marketing, a really clear goal, and knowing what others are doing, and communicate strongly to your teams, you can manage change and come out of the period a lot stronger than ever. And I think that's what we've done this year. And I think, you know, it's easy to say all of this in hindsight. It might not have worked. A lot of it was down to luck and chance as well. And, you know, but we don't know what's around the corner next. I think what we've got as a team here, and I think the things that we've learned will definitely put us in kind of good stead going forward, and hopefully continue to grow as well. So that was it. Thank you. If there's any questions on any of that.
Dan, thank you so much. I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I think you've made it sound so simple, but actually I'm pretty sure it wasn't, particularly going through a pandemic. So I want to say well done to you and your team as well. What a great story, what a great company, and thanks very much for sharing it with us today. Do you want to unshare your screen?
Yes.
I'm not sure everyone, just so I can see everyone. Absolutely brilliant, thank you. And also, Adam, for your messages that I thought were really relevant at the start about the diversification linked to some of the things that Dan was saying you covered remote working as well, but looking at new markets, all completely relevant. So thank you to both of you. I'm just really conscious, Dan, you thought you rushed through, but we've actually run out of time for today's session. So we'll scrap the networking, make that decision quickly. And I know some people have to go, but if anyone's got a few minutes, can we answer a few of the questions in the chat? Let me just have a look. I'm going to skip some of my teams because you can ask Dan again. The others are just thank yous. No, okay. So, oh, that was just a comment. Just going back. I don't know whether actually these are for Adam as well, but what do you think is the next big thing in tech? That's a very big question. You've got 10 seconds to answer, Adam. Oh, you're on mute, Adam.
Yeah, I should have stayed on mute, actually, shouldn't I? What's the next big thing? I'm not a techie, so I can only do it from a marketing point of view. I'd say big data and analytics, and using that data to in all sorts of ways to run businesses is probably, that's like a really broad subject, a really broad answer to a subject, but and I saw something about 5G in there, and I think that combined will probably be the thing that makes a big leap forward. So that ability to use that data and use it across the businesses in, you know, I don't want to go on about machines again, but with machines and robotic learning and using all that 5G data together will probably be the biggest.
Yeah, that was picking up another point that someone else made. So really, really good point. Thanks, Adam. And one for both of you. What do you plan for a marketing budget in terms of percentage? I know that's something I've talked to teams about in the past. So what would your answer be?
My answer, right, okay, so it's a very learned thing, and I think it depends on its seasonality as well. So where we've kind of got to that with is kind of understanding what percentage of our turnover happens in what month, and then allocate the marketing budget accordingly to that. So going back to return on investment, if you look at it the other way around, you know, if you're looking at getting £20 for every pound that you spend on marketing, that's kind of our online kind of minimum that we would look at. Offline, we allow slightly less because we kind of expect that it's not going to be quite as effective and it's not as easy to monitor either. Then I think that's a good starting point. So I think work backwards from that. And then if you're maintaining that, then obviously there's still customers out there that aren't getting to you on that budget, so you can increase it. So what we've typically done is year on year, just increased it by a percentage every year, but then stretched it if need be within that month. So again, it's a daily monitoring thing, and I think we're in an industry where actually the thing that affects us most, probably more than COVID, Brexit, Donald Trump, or anything else, is the weather. If the sun shines, we sell more tents and more people are looking to go away camping. So I don't think we take. I think to answer it simply, I would say have a very open budget, but obviously kind of understand where it's not working anymore. And when you get to the point where the investment isn't working, then come back.
Thanks, Dan. Adam, any thoughts from you? The marketing manager, you have to be a techie for this one.
Yeah, I think I'm always jealous of an e-commerce business because they're able to, we try and track our conversions as closely as we can in order to do that. So to make sure that we're putting in money into what we think works, but it's slightly more difficult because ours is with the IT and it's quite large projects and a really long sales cycle. That monitoring that is quite difficult. But what we try and do is monitor that person's journey from the first moment they their first touch point with us and through to their final sale, and then continue after that. So in terms of new business, so that's how I try and do it, to try and understand where where we're getting the most return. Normally in digital stuff, but whether that's AdWords or whether that's through our SEO organic or whether that's through email marketing, etc. So yeah, just trying to track the conversions as best we can.
Yeah, that's critical, isn't it? Monitoring and tracking. Thanks for that, Adam. I'm just really conscious of time, everyone, and we've lost a couple of people, so I'm sure you're all probably back to back with appointments and stuff as well. So I'm going to leave it there for today, but because we are slightly over time, if anybody's got any unanswered questions, there might have been a couple more in the chat that I missed. We'd be more than happy to pass them on to Adam and Dan. I'm sure the guys will be happy to answer you as well direct if you've got something specific you really want to know. So perhaps we can follow up on that later. And in the meantime, a final thank you for Dan and Adam for sharing that information and your story, Dan, with us. It's really, really interesting. I think everyone has found it on the chat has found it interesting. So thanks so much. And nice to see you all, and goodbye. Have a nice rest of the day, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.